Hello and welcome everyone to LCS Challengers League. It's week number 4, so it means we're barely getting fresh into this second round robin. 3 weeks until playoffs, so there's no time to waste. Let's get acquainted with the desk for the flex roll. Oh, hey, that's me. I'm Desirux. How you doing? Hope you had a good afternoon.
Give us a good flex, Eric.
Yeah, sorry. Wait, Gabby's here. Also, I'm wearing a long sleeve black. It's not happening.
You went for it.
You always have to go for the shorter.
Yeah.
The phenomenal Gabby Durden on play-by-play, and if you want big fight analytics, you got him on Beatdown Boulevard. By the way, Beat, I'm just warning you right now, Gabby kind of destroyed Joshi in halftime shows yesterday. Just a warning.
Yeah, sorry,
All I'm saying is, Joshi is right to bring up the conspiracy for play-by-plays to always give extra points to the play-by-plays. I'm just saying, I'm gonna beat the cheaters that y'all are today.
Cheaters? That is a strong accusation.
And I make it. We'll see if you can beat it.
All right, yesterday we voted on our play of the week and crowned a winner. I hope you guys saw it, but if not, no worries. The NACL has you covered. So without further ado, here is the unchained excitement of Perry's pentakill.
Yeah, watching. It's okay.
I'm going.
It's good.
Okay, look out, Ivan.
I'll
call you
Charm.
Charm.
Think about Ivan. No, okay, just chill. Front's back here with me.
Yeah. Yep. I'll probably
This guy's
it.
I got him.
Charm in 3. I'm going.
3, 2, 1. I have
Let's go.
It's Penta for me. It's Penta for me.
Yeah. Okay,
It's Penta, guys! Please!
Okay.
I got Gabby's reaction yesterday. What about you, B? How do you feel about that one?
That was hilarious. Like I love everything about that clip, and it's why I love the guys over at Fear. They're pretty funny. But that's why also shout out to Fear, because they're the ones. Not only do their players post these kinds of content, but they actually post these sort of mic check style videos, and I love them a lot because you get to see the personality of the players. Most players are pretty funny when you're seeing what they're talking about while we talk over their gameplay.
Well, Play of the Week is a public vote, which means you can get involved. Follow at Path to LCS on Twitter. It's not just the voting you can do, though. You can catch up on some of the content you might have missed, such as Zamudo Court. What is that? I don't know. You're going to have to head over to the Twitter and find out. We have all that on our page at Path to LCS. But each split, we give an award to one special player that we believe is the most valuable prospect. It's a forward-looking award. Getting it means that we believe they will be a force in the future of the LCS. And since the first round robin is done, we have some front runners lined up. Let's take a look at who's contending for the most valuable prospect.
Team Liquid's jungler Mir was voted most valuable prospect in spring and picked up precisely where he left off in summer, propelling his squad to a run even more dominant than the team's championship run in summer 2022. This split, his peers and coaches have both praised his ability to play carries and utility. He has seamlessly adapted to play around a different lane in a different meta, and the way that he is able to carry games just speaks for itself.
Alright, now let's talk APA. APA has been a standout in his second split. His laning has improved, and he has the highest gold difference at 15 in his role to show it. And the advantages he creates lets him move and impact the map, earning him the highest first blood percentage amongst mid laners, all of which make him a critical part of TLC's early game. His champ pool is not only deep, but he has also influenced the meta, drawing 6 of the 8 bans Cassiopeia has in the summer and all of the Twisted Fate bans.
Keel has been having the best split of his career, and that is after having already played amazingly in spring. He is second among junglers at gold diff at 15, but not just from farming up to that. By being a part of 50% of the team's first bloods, he gains leads for the team early that he then pivots into playing with the team later. With Keel at the lead, Wildcard has the highest Barons per game as well, picking up Baron 77.5% of the time. No one can out-teamfight Wildcard while Keel sets everyone up on the team for success.
If I had to cast my most valuable prospect vote halfway through the split, I'd vote for Fake God. He's been the best performer in his role, even leading the league in gold differential at 15 at a whopping plus 753. But what I've loved the most is his consistency out of lane. Fake God always seems to be taking the right angles and choosing the right targets, which has led to him making nothing but good plays. LCS fans might be surprised to hear this, but NACL fans won't be when I say he deserves another shot at the big leagues.
You know, if I had to pick one, personally, I'm in agreement with Beat. It's been nutty watching how fast APA has been growing. He's been an absolute standout, Gabby.
Yes, APA has been a great person to just track in the scene, whether you're looking at NACL or his time in CLOL or Always Plan Ahead, the original inspiration.
Always Plan Ahead. You gotta cut out the D.
For the name. Yeah. Cut it out. We don't need any of that around here. But APA, I think that we're always looking at mid laners, right? To be able to be somebody that you can play through or around as a team. And watching that growth over time has been great. And speaking of growth, I do want to give a shout out to Fake God. I love personally, I think one of the biggest benefits of getting to be here with y'all in the NACL and watching the LCS as well is getting the whole grand picture of players. And I know that Fake God had some struggles when he was in the LCS early on in his career. And then now during the season, we've seen a lot of growth and really surging as one of the top laners in the league. And it just shows the breadth with which players can perform and show their growth potential.
And it shows you that LCS Challengers is not just for rookies and newcomers. It's also for older players to reestablish themselves and try and get a second swing at their career. We saw it with Dokla. Fake God might be another one we might have in the future. Now let's pull up the standings to see how things are looking on LCS Challengers. This is where things are going to get more serious. As a reminder to the audience, the top 8 teams qualify for playoffs, which is a very sizable pool. It kind of hurts to be in the bottom 2 now, but there's plenty of hope for teams such as Team Fish Taco and Supernova, because take a look at those game stores. The bottom of the pack, they're ever so close, Pete.
They are, and actually it's funny. Last night I was looking at their chances on whether or not they're going to be able to actually make it into the playoffs, make it into that top 8. Supernova in particular don't have the most difficult of schedules. Taco at the last weekend, I believe, actually have to play two out of our top 3 currently in the standings in TLC and FlyQuest. But Taco have already made upsets on some of our best teams, so it isn't impossible. That's the thing that's so exciting about the league this split. Honestly, it was said in the end of the Maryville win yesterday in the interview by Getback, the league just feels so close. Anyone's taking games off of anyone, and even teams like TLC are dropping.
Gabby, any standouts for you?
Oh, well, I think that I am curious to see how Supernova performed today. I know that we're going to talk a bit more in depth on them in a bit, but just looking at yesterday, right, where they were able to split that series between Wildcard, and the expectation was for Wildcard to win this time around. Those are the moments that you need to be able to propel them into that top 8 when the standings are close. Multiple teams at 7 and 13 currently, 8-12 not being far out of reach. So it's always the bottom of the standings that I'm looking at most when it comes to approaching that cutoff point.
Can't count any of these teams out. Let's move on to the matches of the day. Here on Path to LCS, we got 2 series squared up. The Amateur El Clasico, Supernova and Maryville will do battle, followed by Wildcard versus AoE Gold to finish off the day. Don't forget, we have 2 streams. LCS Challengers will have 3 series playing out, so be sure to put on both, man. Tell your sister yesterday's wrestling pay-per-view. You can watch that later because NACL needs your bandwidth. But let's get squared away with our first match of the day, and that is going to be Supernova versus Maryville. Now, as I said, this is one that we used to see a lot back in the amateur days of League of Legends, back in that tier 3 space. This was the Amateur El Clasico, and now they're going to do battle here in tier 2. A lot of fun to see it. Let's pull up the lineup, starting off with Supernova. They're currently sitting in last place, but some of the standout pieces in Quacker, in Robbie Bob, and the upset performances that they've done show that, they still got a fighting chance, Beat.
Right, the top side is really where this team manages to shine. Quacker, of course, being that big highlight. Music coming over from EU after playing a couple of years in the ERLs as well, as an interesting player to be looking at. This is a team where they're starting to falter after having a pretty strong start in the first couple of weeks of play here. During that first round robin, they still, like I was saying before in the pre-show, have that opportunity to make it to that top 8 towards the end, but it's going to be tough. They are still looking at a lot of upsets to be able to actually make that come true.
But as you were saying, Gabby, they've been able to pull off those upsets before. You were there for the Wildcard versus Supernova game. This is a capable team. They have potential.
Yes, and it is worth mentioning that the victory they did find against Wildcard was with Quacker on that Olaf, a comfort pick for him. He does lean into those champions that like to bring Ghost, which is a positive in the sense of always having those tools that you can turn to pull the wins when you need them, but also shows where they need to grow in terms of kind of bending towards the current meta and finding success in the same way. I do love the fact that Quacker in his interview was very aware of the fact that even, oh yes, I had a good performance, but we know what we need to work on, and that is what we're focused on rather than just celebrating the wins.
Beat, there's another name. Quacker was definitely a standout yesterday. Yep. I loved his play, the Olaf. He tried to take on the world, but Robbie Bob is another player on Supernova who does have a big impact on this roster.
I gotta say, for a mainstay in the Tier 3 circuit, Tier 2 circuit, Robbie Bob is someone who I thought I saw pretty much everything I was going to see, but he's actually exceeded my expectations of it coming into summer. After qualifying on a different team during the promotion tournament, has come over to Supernova. He's actually had some good performances, especially these last 2 weeks. The Annie, in particular, when he's playing those facilitative style champions, the Galio and things like that, he is able to do so much for enabling his team. And of course, he's got a Cassiopeia in the back pocket.
Definitely doesn't hurt to have a pretty expansive champion pool such as Robbie Bob does. But their opponents on the Rift, it is going to be at Maryville University. This is going to be a tough one for them to have to go against. As Maryville University, they've been picking up more and more momentum as they go on. For Supernova, it has been the rougher case where things are shaky, where they're not exactly finding that consistency. But I think that's okay for Supernova, at least in the first round robin. In the second round robin, that's where we got to start to see things shape up. Their opponents on the Rift, this right here is a team that's aging like fine wine, and hey man, they got the colors to match. Maryville University, fresh off taking a game from Team Liquid on the LCS Challengers stream yesterday. Gabby, I know you're familiar with this roster from back in casting CLOL.
Oh, yes. We've got a few players that have come over from CLOL, but obviously this is the CLOL roster at Maryville University coming into Tier 2, and everyone always talks about the system they have in place and that development of their players, which is why a lot of times you look at your rosters and you think, oh, there's not a singular star, but there's a lot of game plan very clearly at play. And they always seem like they're on the same page, leaning on that veterancy of Odd Orange and Niles in the top lane. Also being a very close pairing as well does help when trying to create that good environment with the rest of the team. And then, I mean, you got to look at that bot lane as a point of power, one that is continuing to develop and show that aggression.
And the way this team has been developing, at least through the split, has been nice to watch, because we had that first week where we were kind of just, yeah, this is not the Maryville, they're not going to do well. Nope, wasn't the case whatsoever. They actually did shape up, and that's what we want to see from a developmental squad here in LCS Challengers. But some of those pieces that have been shaping up have been starting to get refined into a sharp edge now, B.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about that, you want to kind of take a look at the bot lane there for Maryville. I mean, Scary Jerry, as the patch change come through, has started to look a lot more competitive in the bot lane. Zyko is someone who I want to bring special attention to in that role, or in that part of the map in particular. I think Zyko is actually, since the shift over from Enchantresses over to the more engaged supports, it's really benefited him.
Yes.
He was in contention for Play of the Week, even though he wasn't one of the ones who won, and he's just been putting out stellar performances like that since it's happened.
And look how many of these clips are just 2v2s outright. This is without the team. This is without the team fight. This shows you how bloodthirsty Zyko and Scary Jerry are. But they're two players that are willing to push the limits. You can see even right here, Killer Instinct back into the deep line without much health, Gabby. I mean, right there, that tells me it's a player who's willing to push those limits. And even if those limits result in some failures, it's something to learn from. And now we're starting to see the fruit of that blossom.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think that this team has been learning a lot throughout the split thus far. They seem to have a very reasonable approach as well when they went into that matchup with Team Liquid Challengers. Yes. Obviously having some fun with APA being on the other side, APA having previously played for Maryville University. But their expectations were to go 1-1. They weren't aiming for the 2-0. So they were able to meet that, and off of aggressive plays. And when you're looking at the bot lane and their desire to go pro, they're still in that mindset of wanting to go beyond. Those that make it to the next stage are the ones that are trying to make the plays, even if it doesn't always look as good, compared to those that kind of fall stable, but don't show how high their ceiling can go. So it's definitely a good way for them to focus.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I love most about players who are trying to get to that next level is that we talk about it a lot, the killer instinct, and not just when you're playing Kai'Sa, that ability to move forward, flash forward, dash forward, so that you can take the risk, and the players who really excel end up being the ones who can kind of ride the edge like that.
I made a little graphic to evaluate these teams in the grander picture. If you pull that up right now, this is going to be the first round robin that they went through. Check marks mean 2 O's, X's mean O2s, everything else is just a 1-1. For Supernova, it's been a struggle. They've only managed one series win against Flycar to give them some reasonable credit right there. But you know what? Splitting games with teams such as FlyQuest, it shows promise, but we need to balance that out. We need to find more consistency in the second round robin. Maryville University, this is where I get excited though, because I could not draft a better script. One, I'm a bad writer. Secondly, Maryville University are the ideal developmental squad. I mean, week 1 was miserable, sure, yes. 1-5, but they said their attention was on CeeLo. That beckoned the question: are we coping? Maryville's week 2 and week 3 performances says no, you're coping if you think we're going to get 2-0'd by your favorite team. Actions speak louder than words. Gabby already mentioned it. Yesterday, they split the series with TLC. The squad has a lot of meat, B.
They do, and I mean, it's funny too that even Scary Jerry said, it's like, it's kind of cope. We were playing on 13.9 at the time. 13.10 was a big patch shift, as I'm sure anyone who watches or plays this game recognized. So it is actually fair that they were so focused on that for CLOL. It impacted their performance, and I mean, they put their money where their mouth was, as that graphic showed, Desirect. They've really turned things up these last couple of weeks. And remember, they ended week 1, 1-5. They finished the first round robin at 9-9. How insane is that? They went 8-4, essentially, between weeks 2 and 3.
That's an insane turnaround right there, but it shows you the commitment that Maryville University have made to LCS Challengers and to trying to raise up some of these players that have come through their infrastructure. They've done it in the past, promoting players like Getpack and APA, and even with Niles and Odd Orange being the spot that they are, not really wanting to have that promotion, they're still willing to throw down to make sure that players like Scary Jerry, Zyko, and Getback still get the spotlight. So right now, I'm hearing that draft is ready, so it's about time to throw it over. Gabby, please take us away for game number 1, Supernova versus Maryville University.
Thank you, Desirux. Appreciate you. We're about to get into the first game, but to add another point onto Maryville, not to shill too much onto it, but I just want to add some to the collegiate narrative. There is a very tricky balance when it comes to a program developing in fostering a competitive environment where you can focus on propelling yourself as a player and still have things like pro aspirations in mind, while also encouraging the players to be pursuing their degrees and making use of the scholarship within that system. You know, sometimes there's not always a set emphasis on actually graduating at the end and things, right? So I love hearing in the interviews from people like Getback, as well as you see where Odd Orange and Niles, with all their experience, are choosing to remain in this program, is kind of not having to forfeit one or the other and still having that competitive energy to them, which they are here in a very controlled way, aiming for the 1-1 splits at the very least within their series. And we'll see what they're able to do against Supernova.
Right, and it's Supernova who, on the other hand, despite that strong start, are starting to stumble a little bit here, and worse timing to run into a team like Maryville, who, going into this weekend, we asked ourselves, how legit is Maryville University? And after their series split with Team Liquid Challengers, and like, this was by no means a fluke, it was a well-played game by Maryville start to finish, and I'm ready to say that Maryville is the real deal.
And I know that they definitely want to prove that within this league, but it's not like it's an easy one for them to scrap through. Getback himself acknowledging in the interview that of all the leagues he's competed in, including over in OCE where he came from, this is one of the closest leagues in terms of the actual competitive level of every team from top to bottom. So that's why for teams like Supernova, despite being at the bottom of the standings, you can never count them out in their potential to rise to the top. Just taking down Wildcard in one of their games within their best of 2 and looking to follow up on that with a strong performance here today.
Right, now that first pick is going to come through the Kindred there for Music. Not usually what we see in his wheelhouse, but he's been able to perform pretty well on it, usually more on those early game type junglers, the Wukong, the Vi, things like that. But Kindred is just too strong at the moment here. And Niles is having a little fun, hovering the specialty there of Quacker, the Darius, which is why you saw Quacker hovering it before. But I would be surprised if, unless it was a Jace, okay, that makes more sense. Tristana super strong at the moment here, whether you put it mid or bot. I really like that pick.
Yeah, Tristana is not going anywhere, that's for sure. We've seen just how strong her siege on towers can be, especially when getting ahead. And if Odd Orange and Scary Jerry, if the Tristana does go mid, end up playing around that, then you can suffocate Robbie Bob on whatever picks that Supernova decide to bring to the table. Of course, Tristana can still go in the bot lane, as you mentioned, beat a possibility and why she gets locked in early to still threaten that flex.
Yeah, which is interesting. It tells me that Robbie Bob might be looking for that Cassiopeia that we talked about in the pre-show, but maybe it's going to be the Annie. It's interesting because Supernova ban away the LeBlanc on the blue side, and Maryville don't ban the Tristana. So unless you first pick that, that's going to go to Maryville every single time. So now you have the Annie coming through here. It's going to be tough for you to match the clear against the Tristana. She pushes so well early, but if Get Back does run that, you still have the ability to hopefully try and stun him up. And Supernova, they want to keep on piling on the CC as the Rel is locked in for Trevor.
Yep, Trevor's breaking out the Rel, try and get some of those hefty engages. I know that yesterday, I'm trying to recall, was it the last game? Yeah, so in Supernova's win, Trevor was on the Rel and was very much being able to set up the Rel engages alongside that Annie stun. There's a lot of potential lockdown, and Robbie Bob, having played a lot of Annie, this split is well positioned to do so again.
Right, and he's looked pretty good on it too. Now we're seeing bans away from that top side. They just want to remove the Cassante. Wouldn't be surprised if another pick goes towards banning Sketch. Limit that 80 carry pool since they haven't gone for that in that first rotation. And beyond that, limiting Quacker's options is clearly more important to Maryville there. And it's fair. He's been that big standout performer for Supernova. So much of their early game is what he's able to get done in the top side by being aggressive, taking these trades, finding these advantages.
So many games on the Olaf, the Renekton, the Cassante, a point of power that Supernova knows how to play around. But we saw what Zyger was able to do on the Alistar. That's a pretty big threat from that support position coming in.
Dude, he's a world-class goalie at this point. They got to sign him up for the World Cup because it's that good answer into the Rel too. And with this bot lane duo here, if Scary Jerry does lock in the Kaisa, this is a combo that Scary Jerry and Zyko have been playing a lot these last couple of weeks, and they have looked very good. Zaya would be another one too. That added safety is going to be really important either way. Both have ultimates that allow them to reposition in team fights, and it's a good way to try and deal with the CC that Supernova have. I'm really curious as to what Quacker is going to be playing in the top side. A lot of the usual suspects out of the picture for him, and usually tank isn't something we always see from him here, but with the double marksman comp, I wouldn't mind seeing that on his side.
Both Quacker and Niles are known for very unique champion pools, which makes them very fun to track when it comes to performing here in the NACL. The response from Supernova right now is to index into that bot lane with a Zaya, which, of course, you're always going to be able to capitalize upon the Featherstorm, both in a disengage opportunity or otherwise. And when you have someone like the Kaisa on the other end that's really trying to get to that backline to be able to execute you upon that killer instinct, then I'm sure we'll see some moments where Sketch is trying to hold on. This is the second game we are seeing from Quacker on the Darius. I believe a one trick of Darius in times past before coming into the NACL.
That's right. In 2021, he started off his career as the Darius one trick, but he got a lot of praise for how well he developed in that year. He brought it out against Fake God, who, I'm going to be real, Gabby, he dunked on him. And now he is hungry for that to try and redeem himself here as he does play it into Niles, who is on his signature Gnar. It's going to be really important for Quacker to get the ball rolling on this pick. We saw what happened last time against DSG if he cannot.
And this will be the 7th Gnar game for Niles this split, but I very much am all the more curious then, Beat, to see how that top lane goes. Because a lot of times when you have a one trick come in, they get that champion banned against them a lot. And then eventually, they're trying to focus on developing other parts of their skill. Yeah. And then when it pops back up, you go, oh yeah, this is why they're really good at that champion. But with that considered, what do you make of the two traps in totality? Which way are you leaning?
I'm liking what Maryville have gotten so far. Several ways to deal with the Kindred ultimate is what I'm especially looking at. And great team play overall. We know that Maryville are so good at working together. And this comp is just built for that front-to-back 5v5.
Well, let's see if they can pull it off. Maryville and Supernova coming off of 1-1 splits in their series yesterday.
That's right. And really quick, we got to say, as it says there, you got to subscribe to the channel. Not only do 50% of the revenue go towards the teams and players, so by subbing, you're directly putting money into their pockets, you get 10,000 Riz. Abby, that's a lot of Riz.
Should I even bother asking you what your favorite emo is?
No, probably not.
I wonder which one.
I don't know. It's tough. It's really tough.
Really, really tough. If you're wondering what the heck are they talking about in the chat, they are custom emotes. You can take a look yourself. Just pop open that chat and see that all the casters are represented on the NACL. A lot of emotion shown across, but very much a joy to have as part of the broadcast in support of these players that are putting their best foot forward in each of these matches, especially when you're trying to set the second round robin off strong. It's a good mental reset. You've played against all the teams at least once in your best of twos and have had a lot of time to learn and develop, which has been the name of the game for both of these teams.
That's right. Maryville, of course, developing very quickly. These last couple of weeks have really turned it up. And Supernova still being able to split series. They split one yesterday, as we were talking about in the pre-show. And this is going to be a tough one for them. So I talked about Maryville, how good their team fight is going to be. You have push in the mid lane there for Get Back, which is going to open up the options for Odd Orange. But on Supernova's side, again, you're looking at the solo laners, really. This top side of the map, usually a big part of this team's success. Quacker on the Darius, again, got rolled by Fake God, is looking to redeem himself here, and he is going to have to get the ball rolling. So much of what Supernova get done in the early game, that high Rift Herald focus, is because of what Quacker is able to do against other top laners in the league. And from what we've seen, Niles is no slouch, so this is going to be a big test for him.
And Niles does love to play the lane extremely aggressively. Of course, going to make sure that he approaches Quacker's Darius cautiously, because even though Quacker wasn't able to find success in it the first appearance of this split, I'm sure he's waiting for that moment to give it its time to shine. But all the while, Odd Orange on the Maokai, so always going to have the advantage in terms of setting up around those neutral objectives. Currently pushing out Music in his own jungle and seeing if he can contest, but getting collapsed upon. Trevor getting the first strike of it, and Sketch all over the wall, able to get some damage down. Trevor gets knocked away, tries to crash over the wall, can't do it. Odd Orange draws first blood, and Get Back has come in with the rocket jump, throws the explosive charge, but cannot get it charged up too early in the game to be able to finish off, but still asserts that pressure. A good play from Maryville.
Really smart. They all commit, and that's the big thing there about Maryville. Again, Odd Orange feels he has the space because of that mid lane prio to go for the invade here, and he has the support of his entire team when he does it. You're going to see it again. Sketch, he has to walk away, realizes, oh, this is a big problem, I gotta go. And unfortunately for Trevor, he just doesn't get that option.
Now the headbutt right into the remaining members of the team. You can see that Get Back immediately started rotating down. And I think that is one of the biggest points when it comes to Maryville's success. People saying it's not that there's one big star that's always caring for them.
Yeah.
It's the communication between them, the quickness with which they all collapse upon a play, and even seeing the mid laner making that rotation, you know them comms were clean.
Yeah.
So Maryville definitely reaping the reward of it.
And it's tough. Music forced to delay the end of his clear, giving Odd Orange the opportunity to double crab him. He's got a pretty noticeable lead here in this early game, and Odd Orange has been doing that since the split started. He's been damn good in Summer Split here in Challengers League. And it's been a good look to see him kind of help prop up the rest of his team, like we were talking about. Scary Jerry and Zyko especially.
Okay, get back. Use the rocket jump. Trevor flashing on forward. Music
they
has
got
come
him.
to play. Wolf gets the snap. Trevor with the kill credit, but a play by Supernova to bring some power in the mid lane.
Oh, that feels kind of bad that it ends up going to Trevor after Music uses the flash, but he will get that opportunity. Go for that Raptors respawn, kind of help close the gap a little bit after what he lost in those early minutes. And you do get back to use his teleport. You make another play there as that lane isn't fully pushed in. Oh, look at that.
Get back just walked very quickly back to lane. Trevor was awaiting. Get back still hanging out in the line brush, but Supernova can't waste too much time trying to collapse. And you're absolutely right, Beat, in saying that, yeah, it's not the best case scenario that Trevor ended up getting the kill, but at the very least, you are preventing Tristana from snowballing in the way that she can in lanes in terms of pushing these waves forward and getting some of those early plates. Delaying that as much as possible at least keeps her from outpacing too much.
Yeah, now we're going to see Maryville go ahead and start the Drake, but they need to back off because Robbie Bob has that. Whoa!
Zyko going in for a good chunk onto Trevor.
Oh, they want the whole play.
Achieves the root. Zyko gets out of it. Robbie Bob's coming into the bush with a stun up. Ward just now expiring from the bot lane, but no draw from the Dragon yet. It was that little bit of poke while establishing some vision, but the Dragon will be left alone for now.
Let me tell you, that Ward got the maximum value at the end of its life. It ends up preventing a disastrous play there for the side of Maryville. So they hold on to a small lead. And as far as everything's going, you're really happy right now as Maryville University. With this comp that's so good at being able to team fight later on, so many players who can really devalue the Lamb's Respite from Music, being able to CC people out of it and have it not save their lives. Maryville are happy to go even if they don't pick up that first Drake. Who cares? It's chill. Like, you just keep farming it up till we get to late game, and Maryville are going to do what they do.
Still plenty of time to stack it. Right now, Odd Orange prioritizing grabbing the crab on the top side. Niles escaping the wrath of Quacker, who activated the ghost, and Orange slammed upon by Trevor, stunned up, tries to get the twisted advance onto Music, button away. That's the play from Robbie Bob to claim it. So one trade on the top side.
And a really important one, being able to get that kill. It goes over to one of the right people. As long as everyone walks away, nice, everyone's good.
Flash channeled.
That's what Supernova needs to get done. They need to keep they need to be the ones to find these kills in the early game. They need to be the ones to accelerate the pace of this game. And when Rift Herald coming up, that big point of power for this team, that is where I imagine they have their sights set on. Being able to get that on the top side for Quacker would be a huge boon for the Supernova roster.
Yeah, because so far we've seen slight contests in the rivers, but no neutral objectives acquired. That skirmish on the bot side that Maryville had started up by stepping up to it, ended up disengaging off of it. Now on the top side, that scuttle was claimed by
Niles.
MU. Niles,
He bleeds.
tries to get out of it, bleeding away, hops over the wall.
Oh,
Boom, there's the final pop of it. Quacker claiming a kill, which means Supernova are clear to start up this Rift Herald.
nice and easy, and that is exactly where you want to kill on the side of Supernova. Onto this Darius. Niles almost had a cheeky outplay there, using the fleet footwork heal to get himself safe and sound, but it wasn't enough to deal with the hemorrhage. And that Rift Herald has been very easily picked up. Supernova also pick up more gold. And now we got to see where Music is actually going to drop this one here. Dropping it mid lane to get you that Dragon Prio is an option here, but I'm kind of setting my sights bot side. Sketch, Trevor falling behind a little bit in terms of CS, being able to get them that plate gold, potentially getting a kill onto Jerry and Zyko. A great way to help out Supernova's bot lane.
And we'll see what plays end up happening on bot and mid, because Odd Orange is stepping into Music's jungle right now to get some of the saplings set down, establish the vision. Robbie Bob had previously backed, even with teleport being down and walking back to lane, just to be able to set up with a little more firepower prior to any fight that might commence around this dragon. Does need to clear the wave first, though, because Get Back was able to push that in a bit while Robbie Bob was absent. Music is still hovering. And around this dragon, Odd Orange is right posted on it with Get Back. Robbie Bob is coming in for the play. Ends up being Odd Orange's to claim, but he does have to die as a result. So Jungler trading the life for the dragon security.
I will say good for Maryville to continue getting these kills, but I really don't like the pathing Music went for. He should have jumped over. I may need to hold that thought.
Standing on top of a ward there, end up clearing out the control, but no sweeper used. So the Maryville bot lane is aware of the heavy presence on the bot side. And then some trading over here on mid. Play with Tibbers means that Get Back does have to rocket jump out of there, but luckily did have the ability to escape. Sketch, though, not so much. Uses the Feather Storm and flashes away.
Oh, wow.
Music coming in and dropping the Lamb's Respite to be able to ensure that Sketch stays alive. Scary Jerry should be able to keep walking it out. Zyko putting in the work on the Alistar just to be able to body block. Knows that he has enough tankiness to him with the ultimate activated, where Trevor and Music cannot finish him off.
Wow, that's a good play from Scary Jerry and Zyka. It cost them their ults, but they hold on to most of their summoners. So that removes any real opportunity for Music to make that Rift Herald play come through. And now, instead, they get the opportunity to keep this wave pushed in, deny more farm from Sketch, and start knocking down some of these turret plays. Their junglers on this side of the map. They know Music has to go top. They feel very safe right here.
Safe until you're stunned.
That's fine.
Zyko headbutton way and could draw in from Trevor using the Magnet Storm. A little too aggro in the positioning from Maryville bot lane. Sketch wants to step up to Scary Jerry. Scary Jerry had just used the flash, but can walk it out. That's still another kill over to Supernova, though. And Beat, you were saying that Supernova needed to be the team to make the early plays, and here they are establishing a gold lead.
Yeah, I really thought the flash would come through here for Scary Jerry to avoid that Q, but must have thought he would have been able to live in the long term. He did, but Zyko needed to go in and save him, which is what ended up costing him his life. Now we have a Rift Herald top.
So Supernova making plays on both sides of the map after getting the single kill onto Zyko. Drop the Rift Herald here up top. We're only at 12 minutes, so still 2 more minutes to go to try and grab as many of these plates as possible, and the Rift Herald giving a chance to do so for Supernova side.
This ends up being pretty good for Supernova long-term.
Quacker's falling under a lot of damage. Slams down onto Niles under the turret, but Odd Orange keeps Trevor away. Twisted advance forward. Nature's Grasp drawn by Odd Orange. A double root onto 2, but doesn't get the weakest one. Quacker is still fairly low, but Trevor body blocking as much as possible. Eats up the explosive.
Look at Robbie!
Robbie Bob over the wall. Throws down Tibbers. Odd Orange making his way to Quacker, but Quacker still stacking up the HP. The sustain is good. Supernova killing Odd Orange once again after he used his flash.
Wow, they shift Sketch up to the mid lane, so they leave the opportunity for Scary Jerry to pick up plates, but that worked out so well for Supernova. We keep saying we need them to snowball in this game 1, and they're starting to do that, being able to get these kills topside. I mean, respect to Quacker going for the limit testing. This wasn't his one trick for no reason, and he really played at the edge with this one here. Low health the entire time, and the teleport from Get Back. Maryville thought they were going to be able to get something off of this, but it ends up just being that 1-for-1 coming through here, and not exactly ideal for Supernova, who are continuously picking up kills on these stronger champions.
They knew what strength they could potentially have to play over on that top side, and using the Rift Herald there and then staying just a bit longer to make sure they could follow up on the play definitely push an advantage in their favor, especially considering that in the 2v2 on the bot side off of that Trevor ultimate, they were able to get that one single pick previously. Yes, on the support, but they had grabbed that flash. So still keep in mind now as Trevor returns to lane that Scary Jerry is still has to be a little frightened in the way that he approaches some of the 2v2 forward.
And something going well for Scary Jerry, as you can see it. He has the second most gold in the game at the moment here. But if we look at the top 4 overall, it's mostly Supernova, Music being able to pick up some much needed gold after how that early invade set him back was such a big deal. Quacker getting a lead over his opponent in Niles as well is huge. We can't discount Maryville's ability, not only as a team, but with their comp, to be able to go for these team fights. But this is a good start here for Supernova. Next step is continuing pressure on this bottom side of the map, so you can actually get this dragon stacking starting. And even though you lost that first one, if you get these next couple of dragons, you can still keep a lead.
And Maryville in the river are the first to start it up. Odd Orange had secured it the previous go-around, gave his life for it, but this time already has Get Back looking for the angle. The ward there from Supernova means that he will be seen on the entry. Teleport comes in from Niles, but Odd Orange secures it, so even the threat of the teleport is enough. Double stack for them now.
And that pretty much settles it, that Supernova aren't going to reasonably be able to play for a Dragon Soul. It's going to be really hard for them, as it would basically be 20 minutes from now, Gabby. And with that in mind, Maryville's comp, they're going to reach some of that, or they're going to reach that critical mass that we were kind of alluding to in the draft and in the early game. And that's something Supernova have to be careful with. At the very least, Quacker does get that first turret bonus gold. And another Rift Herald coming through means if they get this dive on the Get Back on the top side, they could get a lot of gold into Quacker's pocket.
And the question is, though, with Supernova, they've gotten a lead, but is it enough? Can they make more of it now? Trevor, double stun up onto Niles and Odd Orange, and the stuns continue. Look at how much CC Supernova were able to enact on this bot side to grab the life of Odd Orange. Niles and Zyko still survive, but it is a pick for Supernova to draw the attention, while on the top side, Quacker is still moving forward with that Rift Herald push. So both sides of the map working in the favor of Supernova.
And that's the second time now where they were able to, one, Get Back needs to leave because of the overwhelming Maryville presence on the bot side, and Supernova managed to turn that around instead. They have doubled their lead effectively with that play, and maybe 20 minutes from now will be a good thing for Supernova if they're able to keep these plays up and keep this kind of gold lead going. It will make it harder for Maryville to play their comps the way they actually want to here. And we're seeing a lot of people coming on these usual item spikes coming through. 2 items is going to be big there for music on the Kindred. I think Maryville need a little bit more time. When you look at Tristana, when you look at the Kaisa, you're really looking at 2-3 items for when these champions really start to do this unreal damage.
Yeah, the damage is what you have to work or look out for in the coming time, because you're just pointing it out, Beat. Some of the items that have come online, Get Back and Scary Jerry do have those static shivs finish. So Supernova holding power right now with their gold, but still matched with some of the item completion. And then you do have to think about those dragon stacking on Maryville's side. Stun being utilized onto Niles. Tibbers to follow afterwards. And Niles in a little bit of trouble, slams on back to stun up on Robbie Bob. Does flash for safety. So Get Back uses the teleport. Robbie Bob has to hit the watch, but still has Trevor that's been rotating through the whole time. Get Back manages to finish on the kill, which gets the reset of the rocket jump. But one last slap from Tibbers does it. A trade in the bot side.
Wow, 1 for 1, so ends up being not bad. I favor Supernova a little bit because they have members rotating to this bot side, and Maryville are the ones who lost 2 flashes. Trevor's only really counts as half when you have Hex Flash. And now you get this bottom tier 1 turret. That's just more easy gold that Supernova are able to pick up. As long as they get to walk away, everything's going to be nice and chill. But
downtown Nature's Grass thrown from the bush means that no escape from Quacker, but he did flash and ghost. So 2 summoners taken away from the top side of Supernova. Maryville trying to shore up some of their losses in recent times.
Yeah, that actually ends up being pretty good. They're going to get this turret because Supernova have to back away from this, and you get, like you called, that flash and ghost out of Quacker. And even though Odd Orange will get his ult back by the time Dragon spawns, Quacker won't get those summoner spells back, so he's going to be a lot less threatening in that team fight. Maryville going to pretty comfortably continue approaching that Dragon Soul there, and the Cloud Soul. I mean, is honestly a really strong soul, particularly with the composition that they have going through here. That bonus move speed when casting your ultimate is going to do wonders for their ability to team fight. So unless Supernova get some crazy pick, some crazy engage, it's going to be really hard for them to pick up this third Drake.
And it being Cloud Soul kind of makes me wish Supernova got the dragons, though, because I think it'd be more fun to see Darius.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just thinking of the fun element here, and I'm looking who would be the most fun to watch with the additional move speed. But alas, Maryville, props to them for getting the first 2 dragons to put them closer to that opportunity in doing so. Yeah. And I think that's why you have to look at the different conditions going for these teams, because Supernova, okay, they've gotten a lot of turrets. They were able to get a lot of plates before too, which is why their gold lead has maintained pretty consistently for the past 5 minutes or so. Now at 20 minutes as that Baron spawns. But Maryville, though, they did deny those first couple Drakes. They started to crack things open off the bot side. And as you were talking about, Beat, do have that team fight. That is just going to be such a worry later on, especially when Tristana only needs a few moments to be able to take down turrets after you take down a couple members of Supernova.
And one thing I want to add too, we talk about Trist and Kaisa looking for those 2-3 item spikes. I will say Static Shiv has done a lot of work for them in their ability to push waves out and get to these objectives first. It's a big part of why Maryville have been able to just get this overwhelming vision advantage that you see on whatever side of the map they want to focus. So Supernova now using this opportunity to try and take turrets, but they're caught out by Odd Orange, who stalls out the play.
Yep, uses the ultimate just to be able to get them to back off. I think Odd Orange shows just how comfortable he is on a pick like Maokai when you're always looking for that default angle from Brush to be able to execute onto it. Trevor using the Hexflash wants to get a play onto Zyko, who headbutts on in, knocks up Quacker.
Wow.
Was slain down.
Noxie and Guillotine coming in big here. This Darius is starting to pick up an unreal amount of gold. No Zyko means no support. Easy to set up vision and clear things up. Supernova, they want more than that, though. They are threatening that potential Baron start, and they're going to go ahead and pull the trigger.
Sketch already down to half because of this poke, and that's what Trevor's trying to zone out on the back of the pit, but Odd Orange looking for as much intel as he can grab. There's a teleport from Niles to attempt to collapse. Baron goes down. Music does end up claiming it, but Trevor going on to Scary Jerry all the while. Odd Orange is zoned out of the fight, killed off. Music claims the life of the enemy jungler, and Scary Jerry dipping it back with Robbie Bob fallen. Music in the center of Lamb's Respite is able to keep himself and Sketch alive. The heal coming in, but Get Back wants to get some hits onto the explosive charge as much as possible, and Sketch has fallen. Quacker marked away, uses the ghost to create the distance. Is not enough to prevent space between Scary Jerry and the rest of the squad, though. So Maryville turning it back with the ace.
And this is what we're talking about here. Supernova end up getting aced. Yes, they pick up the upfront gold from the Baron, but they give over so many kills and multiple shutdowns to the side of Maryville University. And the big thing here is this is after getting hit by the Maokai ultimate. This is after taking some damage trying to take that mid-tier 2. So even though Niles isn't able to actually get a useful Mega Gnar off, the health advantage and that reset potential here for Maryville is too strong, and they know it, Gabby, and they keep walking forward because they know it's just a matter of time before they finish them off.
That was a very short-lived Turo Baron buff.
Yeah.
Yay, we got the Baron, and then got aced, which is always well, not always something that happens, but a possibility when you're going for the Baron in that play. You can already see some of that initial damage onto the carries, and I think the Maryville play in response of having Niles go for that deep ward teleport, collapse upon them, and then you're just waiting out things like the Lamb's Respite that did a really great job of delaying, but not enough to prevent the onslaught.
Right, and the thing is, again, if Niles just had a little bit more of that Mega Gnar bar, hey, that fight would have just been overwhelmingly Maryville favored, and that was when Supernova had a 4K gold lead at the time. And this is what I mean when I say this is a comp built for team fighting, a comp that Maryville are very comfortable piloting given how they play the game and how they always find these wins. So now that this gold lead for Supernova has gone down to 2,000, they do need to be very careful, because when you split that across 5 members, I mean, 2,000 gold, it doesn't really seem like much, does it? Especially when you consider Scary Jerry. 3 items, get back, 2.5 with that Navori Quick Blades. They're already hitting like trucks.
And I think that when you're looking at that gold lead, even when it was more significant, you have to look at when it's being applied, because there were moments where, okay, yes, Supernova was sitting on gold, but then you look down and they're fairly even in itemization.
Yes.
You also, of course, someone like Odd Orange is going to hit his build a bit more quickly, right? Even Shroud being one of the cheaper of the mythics, but nonetheless, you could see that Get Back wasn't set back enough. Right now, though, Get Back and a little setback. Rock jumps out. Won't be able to survive it. Music gets the kill. But see, so at least you do find these moments to get these picks, but it's not like Maryville are absent of that firepower, so it puts more emphasis on Supernova to try to find these unique one-offs to set up elsewhere.
We're going to need to see that emphasis once more in the coming minutes here. You can see from this gold graph what Maryville have done to be able to close the gap a little bit. And Scary Jerry and Get Back, most gold in the game, biggest damage dealers on Maryville's side, and they're winning these fights. Coincidence? I don't think so. But one thing I want to highlight too, Get Back wisely didn't invest the flash. He's going to basically spawn back with the dragon, which would be the sole point for Maryville. So he has his flash, he can TP to join the fight, and it's just going to be that much harder for Supernova. They're going to have to kill him again, and it is going to be harder as it will be a 5 versus 5.
Now multiple coming on in from Maryville. Teleports used, but the dragon already gone. Supernova claiming that to even the dragon score. Trevor gets knocked up by Psycho and into the center of them all. Tries to draw in, but
Quacker's
Odd
won.
Orange really putting the body in front of him. Niles goes into stasis. Get Back getting the brunt of the damage from Skep, but the double kill from Quacker using both of his summoners in the Lamb's respite. Multiple members of Supernova in pursuit of the remaining member. It's a quadra kill from Quacker. Denied the Pentas. Get Back gets towards mid, but what a showing from Quacker on his premium pick.
The Quacker Darius set up by the perfect Trevor Engage gets an almost ace for the side of Supernova. That's more gold. That's another dragon and the tier 2 turrets. Them once again reaffirming their position in this game. And again, the big thing here is Niles is looking for the flank. So much happens before he is part of the situation. He's forced to blow his stopwatch to dodge out on the Noxian Guillotine, which doesn't put it on cooldown, by the way. So it basically means that this entire fight, Niles is actually unable to affect very little until 2 members are already out of the picture.
And even though Niles is, got the knockback there, but I think also good use of the Lamb's Respite to be able to delay things just enough for the Supernova side. And Quacker set up very well to be able to collapse and take many lives. Now looking to take some more. Odd Orange Flash has to disengage with the Nature's Grasp.
This has just been a great game 1 here from Supernova, especially because Maryville, they're getting their licks in too. They are punching back, but Supernova are hitting them just as much and winning at most of these turns here. Now Quacker's feeling confident enough at 3.5 items to start running down ADCs. That ADC moment that I'm sure everyone is familiar with. And now with the Baron spawning, they're confident enough to go ahead and start it up. No Nature's Grasp available, and Quacker is big.
And Trevor's looking for the angle. Doesn't have the ultimate, but could get a lockdown onto one. Robbie Bob falling into the 1v1 with Niles and has to use Tibber separated from the team. All the while, Zyko is putting in the work to try and collapse upon Supernova. Niles does fall to Robbie Bob, who can now join the fight again. Trevor marched low, though, still waiting and has armor form to offer a bit more of that tankiness before the team if needed, because Get Back and Scary Jerry can still whittle them down. These bars are looking unhealthy. Into the center of the ball.
Nice.
Odd Orange goes and falls. So Supernova, they can claim this Baron. And I think this Turo Baron buff is going to last a little longer than the last one.
That's right, and they have it on all 5 members to boot. An incredible team fight there from Supernova and Niles. Ooh, I don't know if the 1v1 Annie was worth it. Again, another team fight where this Gnar, big team fighter, big CC tools, and what's supposed to be a big health bar, wasn't part of the 5v5 for Maryville. Very uncharacteristic for this team. And Supernova happy to take advantage as they now are almost 7,000 up. And at 30 minutes in the game with these spawn timers, they're about one good fight away from closing it down.
And Supernova, they don't even want the fight. They just want one single
goodbye.
Alistar. And they got him. Took him down, which means that tier 2 ready for Supernova to claim. And Maryville, they have to set up in that defensive stance, right? You have these cannon waves that are coming down, all wearing purple. Mid inhibitor, completely broken. And Maryville are losing to the siege.
Right, and with another 15 seconds coming through on Zyko, this bot tier 3 surely is next on the chopping block as there are some of these baroned up minion waves coming through here. But Supernova, they need to get this and get out. They have a lot of gold to spend.
Multiple ultimates in the flash from Trevor
Okay.
into the Magnet Storm sets up for Supernova. Props on the support for the play. Oh, this is it. Supernova letting Quacker pop off just a little more. Getting some kills under his belt again. What a statement from Supernova, having certain moments of struggle in the first round robin, but coming up clean in the late game, never letting Maryville get online in the way they want to, and walking away with the first victory.
And what a victory it was, La Tigra. Supernova showing us that maybe they're not fully faltering yet, because we still believe Maryville to be one of these better teams in the league. And Supernova absolutely stuck it to them in the early game in game 1.
Yeah, and there were moments when looking at that early game, in fact, if we take a look at the breakdown of it, where I almost questioned, okay, did Supernova get enough with their early game lead? They've got a gold lead, but they were losing out on some of those dragons, and they started to get this gold, and you saw where it shored up a bit when Maryville turned some of those team fights, and we think, okay, this is what Maryville is going for. But Supernova proved that, well, obviously we can team fight too. We have Annie with Tibbers, but more specifically, I want to give props to Trevor on some of those rel engages.
Yeah, Trevor, a lot of props to him, a player we've been keeping an eye on in this tier